I'll record. Yeah. So one of the things that I was reflecting on recently in preparation for a retreat that I co-taught a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it's I guess it's a couple of weeks ago now. Maybe it's just a week. I'm not sure. Time is has this kind of flexible quality where sometimes it seems really long, sometimes it seems really short. Yeah, feelings. In Buddhist teachings, feeling is used in a particular way. It's there's a Pali word, Vedana, that points to a specific experience of hedonic tone, the affect in a particular moment of a particular sensory experience or non-sensory experience. And so the Buddha very importantly divided our experiences into sensory and non-sensory experiences. So I'm going to attempt in a few short minutes to give a brief explanation of this. And it's very, very useful in our practice. And it can be a way of tuning in to our unfolding moment by moment experience. The Pali word is Vedana, Vedana, Vedana. And teachers often use the Pali word to kind of separate it from the English word feeling, because we use the word feeling in English to talk about emotions or even sensory experiences. Like I feel the touch of my hand on my arm. So in Buddhist teaching, these are separated for more precision in understanding how the mind works. And and so Vedana is divided into pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. So so the touch. So in sensory experience, I might say that, you know, my touching my arm, maybe it's neutral. Maybe if I were kind of just, you know, caressing it, it might be slightly pleasant, you know, just to feel that soft touch. Maybe there are other pleasant experiences, such as the breeze coming, gentle breeze coming in the window. It's just slightly cool, very, very pleasant. So we have pleasant sensory experiences, and there could be unpleasant sensory experiences. So if I were to smack myself on my arm, that could be slightly unpleasant. Or if the air were about 10 degrees colder, it might feel unpleasant, and I might feel like I want to close the window and not feel that air coming in, because it was bringing my body temperature down. So that is unpleasant sensory experience. And neutral are, it's a little bit harder to discern. So neutral might be just the feeling of sitting on a chair, or resting my hands on my lap. So usually we don't really notice neutral experiences, sensory experiences. They're just there. Like so, there's an image in the teachings, in the Pali discourses, that it's like if there's a big boulder in the middle of a snow-covered field, pleasant experiences and unpleasant experiences is like, you can see if a deer walked across the field, you could see the imprint of their footprints in the snow, for pleasant and unpleasant. But for neutral, it's like when the deer walks on the boulder, you don't really see it. You don't notice it. So, but you have to kind of look in our experience for what's neutral. So it can be a kind of an inquiry. But neutral, when we begin to become mindful of it, remembering that mindfulness has the quality of awareness without grasping or pushing away, without grasping or resistance, without judging, without going into wanting or not wanting. So, so feeling tone, when we're mindful, we can kind of notice that neutral feeling tone can actually feel a bit spacious, you know, like it's that wallpaper or that wall color, which is kind of neutral and we don't notice, but it just gives the eyes a place to rest and doesn't require us to kind of engage. So neutral can become, with mindfulness, can become a little slightly pleasant. So the thing about feeling tone and why it's really important and mentioned in a number of places in Buddhist teaching is that when we begin to become mindful of sensory feeling tone, we notice that the mind tends to want to hold on to it, to grasp it. So if it's a very pleasant day and the mind says, oh, wow, finally, the sun is shining, the sky is blue, it's not too hot, it's not too cold. Why can't it always be like this? You know, so there the mind goes to clinging, you know, and then, you know, if say the clouds start to move in and it gets cold and then the mind thinks, oh, is it going to rain again today? You know, so the clinging turns to aversion when things change. So when we're aware of this sensory feeling tone, sensory Vedana, we begin to see how it's so easy for clinging or for resistance, aversion to arise in connection with feeling tone. But when there's mindfulness, we can be aware of that and say, oh, there's the mind starting to move into aversion. And with aversion, there's clinging, and with clinging, there's suffering. That's the chain of dependent origination. That's what keeps the suffering of the world going. That we cling, we crave, we push away, we don't want things to be as they are. So it's important to recognize that with sensory experience, there's a kind of hedonic tone, these Vedana feeling tones that arise. And they condition the mind to grasp and to push away. So do all feeling tones condition grasping and aversion? And the neutral tone in the sensory field we tend to ignore it. So it conditions the mind going to sleep. The mind tends to kind of tune out, not notice. So that's what happens without mindfulness in the world of sensory feeling tones. So, but are all feeling tones conditioning that tendency toward grasping and aversion and going to sleep, tuning out. And so, the teachings say, no, actually, now that you ask, there are feeling tones in the world of practice that don't tend to condition the mind to go into craving, grasping, craving, clinging, aversion, and all that, leading to suffering. And what are those feeling tones? How do they arise? What are the conditions that give rise to feeling tones which are not based in the senses? You could call them, the translations sometimes call these unworldly feeling tones, or the sense-based or sensory world. In the suttas, you'll see them called worldly, and the nonsense-based are called unworldly. Other teachers called them sensory and non-sensory. I've been calling them to myself and in my teaching sense-based and non-sense-based. I think it's clearer. So what are non-sense-based feeling tones? So take a moment to just imagine yourself offering or opening your heart with kindness, with metta, to someone that you care about, someone you feel close to. Just wishing well to that person, wishing that person may thrive, may be happy. So in that kindness, in that well-wishing to that person, it's not about me, it's not about my agenda, it's not about somehow, this is going to make me feel good. It's really not sense-based. It's not self-based. It's really opening the heart to a being that, it doesn't kind of impact my own senses or body or conditions. And there is a quality of that. So in that offering the metta, we feel that the heart opens in kindness. But when we look at what is the quality of that experience, it's pleasant. There's a quality of heart which is beautiful in offering metta. Now we don't do that. We don't offer metta in order to enjoy it. We offer it in friendship and kindness. But the truth is that it also is a beautiful quality of heart. And we do enjoy it. There are also non-sense-based qualities of heart that are unpleasant, but they are beneficial to our practice. Such as maybe we react and we get angry at somebody. Now the anger is unpleasant. It's a sense-based, unpleasant experience. It's sense-based in that we have a thought So the thought, thinking, is one of our senses. And so we are reacting to the thought. The thought is about ourself. And so we say it's sense-based. It's based in our thought of ourself. And we're angry that somebody said something or something happened that impacted us in an unpleasant way. And so we get angry, we reject it, we want it to go away, we blame it, we want to get rid of it. So all different ways that we experience sense-based anger. But when there's mindfulness, when we have a practice and we recognize, oh, there is suffering, that anger is suffering, and we turn toward the anger with a quality of heart and mind, which says, this is suffering, and I want to let go of the anger that creates suffering. So I'm going to be mindful of it. I'm going to turn toward it. I'm going to let it just be present in this space of mindfulness and acceptance and compassion. That's a whole different quality of Vedana. It's a quality of Vedana which is actually part of practice. We can say it's a quality of Vedana that's rooted in or based in renunciation. Renunciation of self, of othering, of continuing that blaming and reactivity that keeps the wheel of suffering going. So that's a quality of Vedana that is actually based in freedom from suffering, in a vision of freedom, in renunciation. So there are pleasant, nonsense-based Vedana and unpleasant, nonsense-based Vedana. And there are also neutral, nonsense-based Vedana. So neutral, the neutral, nonsense-based Vedana really arises from the recognition, the insight, the development of wisdom that everything is arising and passing away. There's nothing I can hold on to. There's nothing that really that everything is based in causes and conditions, so I'm not really in control. And so that neutral, nonsense-based Vedana, or feeling tone, is equanimity, is this sense of deep acceptance, which comes from wisdom and insight. So I wanted to share these teachings because they are a very deep practice, and I've found that over the past few weeks I've been working with them very deeply, and I really love it. If you, they're subtle teachings, so so we can tune into what is it? Can we separate the hedonic tone of a pleasant experience, a sensory experience, sense-based experience, from the sensory experience itself, and just say, okay, this is what it is to be pleasant. This is what it feels like. to experience pleasantness through the senses. This is what it feels like to experience unpleasantness. Can I notice when reactivity arises in the world of sensory experiences? Can I notice when I'm clinging, when I'm pushing away? What happens to the sense-based Vedana when I bring mindfulness to it? Does it change? Does it change into something else? What about non-sense-based Vedana? And I'm going to, when we move into meditation, I'm going to guide us into, a little bit of an exploration of that. So that might be helpful to explore that more. But what about, when my heart feels a quality of generosity, and I feel like, I really want to help. I really want to give. I want to have compassion. I feel compassion. Compassion is a beautiful quality of heart, which is touched by the suffering of others. And compassion is different from getting drawn into a kind of a pity, a feeling of pity in which I'm just really in that suffering with them. Compassion contains within it the vision and the wish and the intention that they may be free. So that vision of freedom and compassion brings a quality of, there's a beautiful Vedana connected to compassion, which is connected to suffering and yet has an openness to freedom. What if actually I do practice metta for the good feeling it brings me? Yeah, well, it kind of, if we're just doing metta, we can practice metta for ourselves. We can bring this quality of loving kindness to ourselves, and caring for ourselves. It's really an integral part of the practice. And the Buddha said, and maybe this is the last thing I'll say before we move into meditation, but this, one of the really key teachings about the Buddha's enlightenment, the Buddha's awakening, is that the Buddha started out on his journey of awakening, like many of the Sramana, the seekers, spiritual seekers of his time. He was trying to free the ego from this perpetual grasping toward more and more and more pleasant experiences. That was the intention of the very strict and austere ascetic practices that he undertook. So not only did he deprive himself of pleasant sensory experiences, but he undertook many unpleasant experiences. He starved himself. He deprived himself of sleep. And in the Christian ascetic tradition, there are these practices of actually punishing oneself, of the whips and so on. It becomes really distorted, and so So the Buddha did this for 6 years, and he, to the point of death. I don't. There's nothing in the teachings that he actually beat himself, but just to bring in the Christian tradition, as Westerners, this is very much in the Western. It's part of our tradition, and these puritanical and sort of sense, in a way, despising sensory pleasant experiences, is very much a part of our, it's in the culture. Anyway, that's a digression. The Buddha was at the point of death, and he said, this is not getting me to awakening. I'm no closer to awakening than I was when I started. It's, in a way, these austere and painful practices can even strengthen the ego. And we can see how it would, because, it's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to endure this painful experiences. It's just strengthening the self. And he remembered when he was a boy, he was, like just pre-adolescent boy. His father, it was during a spring ceremony, and his father was with the people of the village and doing some kind of ritual, and he sat under a rose apple tree, and his mind was very much at peace and collected, and he went into an experience of what it was called in Buddhist practice jhana, where the mind becomes very calm and collected. And it was a pleasant experience. It was a non-sense-based pleasant experience. It was an experience of the mind in which there was so much peace and a sense of well-being. And he said, that was not a strength. There was no strengthening of the self in that. It was wholesome. It was beautiful. And I don't need to be afraid of that kind of experience. An experience which is not grasping for sensory experience, but is based in wholesomeness, in freedom from grasping, in freedom from resistance. The mind is at rest. I don't need to be afraid or reject or feel that, there's harm that could come from that kind of pleasant experience. He said, maybe this is the direction that I should go in. And so he took nourishment, he rested, he sat under a tree, and he meditated. And he, over the course of the day and the night, his mind came to full awakening. So in his teachings, over the years of teaching that he did, in his teaching on hedonic tone, he made of that very clear distinction between sensory experiences, which it's not that we should reject pleasant sensory experiences, but we should be aware, we should become mindful, or we need to become mindful of how the mind is conditioned to cling to them, and to recognize that we won't find fulfillment and happiness in them. Now, in these, and so on, with neutral, ignoring neutral and resisting unpleasant sensory experiences. Now, the experiences of non-sense-based, pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral, which we could call dharmic pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral Vedana, they are not awakening. To have a pleasant, neutral experience is not an awakened experience, but they are in alignment. They are more in alignment with awakening, and they nourish the heart. They nourish our hearts, and they protect us from reaching for sensory experiences to relieve our suffering, because we do. The Buddha didn't deny that sense-based experiences can give us a momentary sense of relief. When we're unhappy, when we're feeling angry, or when we feel frustrated, yeah, we have a few. When you take a square of chocolate, or it does give you a hit of pleasant experience, but it doesn't get at the root of the suffering. And so when that pleasant experience fades, which it does very quickly, we're still suffering. So these nonsense-based hedonic tones, Vedana, are in alignment with our practice and can nourish and support our practice. So we can talk about this if there's, if you're interested to continue it after the sit. But let's move into the sit now. It was a big topic, and I took on more than I could cover in 10 or 15 minutes. So we've gone a bit into the sitting time, and so yes, you can listen to this again. It will be posted on the TNI YouTube channel, and you can find it there. So within 3, 4, 5 days it'll be posted. It takes, so Bibiana will do it when she has time. So let's move into our posture. So whether it's sitting or lying down or standing, however your body feels that you'd like to position yourself, feeling the support of the earth, gathering attention into the body. In whatever way feels most supportive to you, whatever way you connect with your body that feels most accessible. You might feel the pressure of the body supported by the earth, your cushion, your bed, your chair, floor. You might feel the breath in the body, sensation in the body. And opening to the field of senses within you and around you. Opening to, in whatever way is available to you, a sense that you and the field are interconnected. Sounds come and go and are known in consciousness. The inner and the outer are not separate. They're interconnected. The air, the feeling of the breeze on the skin, the breath in the body, the inhalation, the exhalation, all expressions of our interconnection with life around us. Inviting the body to relax, settle. Inviting the mind to let go of the busyness, if it's caught up in that, past and future. To just be in this moment of unfolding experience. To be in the knowing of each moment as it arises. As the mind begins to collect, to become perhaps a bit more settled, whether it's now or later. You might notice the quality of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, of that experience of simply knowing this moment without clinging or resistance or zoning out. Just arriving in this moment. Without holding on to anything. There is a quality, see for yourself, if you notice a quality of pleasantness, just to be here now, in this new moment arising. Bring your attention to your heart center, if that feels like something that you're ready to do, what you'd like to do right now. And consider your intention in coming here today, in arriving at our Sunday Sangha to sit, to practice, to be present for yourself and to be present with others. See if within that intention, within that motivation, you can discover the goodwill, the kindness, the friendliness that you feel toward yourself, the caring that you would like to nourish your heart, to become free from habits that perpetuate suffering, to become a more loving person for yourselves and others. That beautiful intention of kindness, of metta, caring for yourself. And however you can connect with this, it might be more mental, it might be more energetic, it might be a kind of experience of light within your heart. However it manifests for you. And notice, what is the feeling tone of that quality of kindness that is there. It's already there. You don't have to make it, manufacture it. It's there. What is the feeling tone? Is there a warmth, a kind of warmth? Is there a sense of connection? Does it feel alive? What is the feeling tone of that? Is it pleasant? Is it neutral? How would you describe it? It's not something that is unwholesome. The joy, the aliveness, goodness that we feel, that we experience in the heart from these beautiful movements of the heart of generosity, compassion, love, friendship, goodwill. From being patient, dedicated to our practice, honoring our practice, honoring Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. These awaken joy, peace, well-being, which have a pleasant feeling to them. We have this capacity to find happiness within, to create happiness in wholesome ways. For ourselves and by extension, others. Resting in this. And exploring this in whatever way seems appropriate and interesting for you in the silence of the remaining time of the sitting, of the practice. May the blessings, the goodness of our practice, and the blessings and the goodness of our lives serve and nourish the happiness, well-being, and liberation of all beings everywhere.